Hey guys, Mike here. So nice bounce today in the market. I don't think anybody was really surprised, were you? And putting the bottom if you were, because if you saw last night's video, you noticed every mega cap, which I covered all of them except for one, was sitting in the golden pocket in the discount area. And then we got the Trump tweet, which I showed you. So of course we knew we were going to at least go up. We didn't know how much we were going to go up. And plus the SPY was way oversold in the hourly. So you get a bounce, okay? I'll show you where it ended up. It's no coincidence where it ended up today. What we got to watch out for on that. We'll also go into TESLA in detail. They have some stuff coming out, as well as AVGO and a few others on top of that. But one reason I pointed this out Friday, it'd be in Saturday's video, excuse me, and I also touched on Sunday, was about the high beta stuff, right? When you saw these stocks, they didn't sell off, you watched Saturday's video, until around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They held up so well, better than I've ever seen, which is something you don't see. You usually see these get obliterated. We've been through SPAC mania, penny stock mania. We've been through all this different stuff. And when you have a 2 to 3% drop in the market one day, stocks like this, who are way overextended, get absolutely crushed. But you didn't see it. Okay, they barely were down. I showed it to you on Saturday and Sunday. You know, ASTS here, big bounce back as usual. It was another one held up really, really well. And that's what I was saying. What is different about these stocks right here is, remember, I'll get a t-shirt saying themes, not memes, but they kind of trade like memes in a way, but not really, right? Because you're not seeing these crazy, like with Open Door, how you see a 40% drop in 3 days or something, right? We're not seeing that right now. We're seeing them doing this. Why I was bringing it to you. I didn't know what to make of it, but it was like, I've never seen high beta stuff with a 20 million float, 30% shorted, do a stock offering and go up. Like usually they get crushed. That's usually what happens. But not these. They keep doing stock offering after stock offering after stock offering. I've seen one go down 3% one day and then end up 8% by the end of the day. I mean, because these are the themes. These are the power and all this stuff and the nuclear and not even EV. Remember it was EV back in the day. Not anymore. Now you got the supercomputers going absolutely nuts today. Anything to do with precious metals going absolutely nuts today. Okay. And so, again, will they get a pullback eventually? Yeah, I mean, you would think. But again, we had a big move down on Friday, and these barely really budged. I mean, honestly, when you think about it, overall context. And there's way more stocks like this than that on there. That's just a list I keep showing. But there's way more stocks than that just are unbelievably, or holding up unbelievably. And that's what I say. I admit one of my weaknesses, and one of them is charting those stocks. Like I can show you the support and levels, but they just don't act like normal stocks. They don't come down. They're not coming down like they're supposed to when we get this market weakness. So if we do, as we will talk in this video, get a real turn down, 3 to 5%, if that happens with the volatility we got, and we'll talk about why we might get it, then I'm definitely watching these stocks, and that's why it kind of gave a green flag to say, there's definitely going to be a bounce back Monday, even if we didn't get the tweet, because with those stocks holding up like that, that's not normal. That is just not normal. Okay, I've been through SPAC mania, penny stock mania, and plenty of other ones, and that is not normal. Okay, because when Open Door was squeezing, if these were just short squeeze type deals, or just low flows getting just squeezed by shorts, they would have absolutely rolled over and gotten hammered with the market. Okay, now they shouldn't be immune to a bigger market pullback. And I think what's going to happen is keep your levels on these, because these themes can go for a long time. And so if we do get that and you see these finally break those trend lines, which I think a lot of these you asked about Saturday, and I put them in there, and I said, watch the 9 EMA, watch these trend lines, okay? When they start to break is when you usually get it, and the support levels are so low on some of these because they've just been going like this, that it is like a 20, 30, 40% pullback, and I think a lot of people are going to pounce on them is what's going to happen. Now, obviously, as usual, what happened this morning? Here's AVGO, 13% jump in pre-market. And why did it jump? And how many times have I said this? Now, I guess I'll keep saying it. Any time there is weakness in any of these AI stocks, what happens? You remember the bat light in Gotham where they call Batman when they need him? This is Sam Altman. He's the new Batman. Anytime they go, Sam, we're seeing weakness here. We need a deal. Sam, get Sam. And in fact, forget a deal. We just need you to reiterate and finalize the deal, because they already announced this 2 weeks ago. The stock jumped 10%, okay? And all they did was reiterate this deal, which is just stupid. I'm going to read this. Look at this. Scroll down this thing. So weeks after Broadcom stock shot up on the disclosure of a $10 billion customer that analysts said was OpenAI, the two companies had made the partnership official. OpenAI and Broadcom said Monday they're jointly building and deploying 10 gigawatts of custom artificial intelligence accelerators as part of the broader effort across the industry to scale AI infrastructure. Broadcom shares soared. It was 13%, not 10%. Following the news, they didn't disclose any financial terms whatsoever. So, of course, AVGO joins this little meme or photo or whatever you want to call it, where, you know, all of them are reaching into each other's pockets. You give me $10, I'll give you $10. You give me 20, you give me 20. And we're all even right here, which I love. But again, if you go out to the chart and you pull up extended hours, this did come down on Friday into the golden pocket. Perfect bounce. Rocket shot up once it gets the news, as usual. I mean, this is how it works, okay? So we'll see if this is going to hold or not. But remember, guys, I mean, you're going to be telling your kids about this one day if they're not old enough to understand this now. I was actually doing a test with my son last week. I just, you know, from one of those AI deals. And I told him, I said, hey, man, give me that pencil right there. It was in his hand. He gave me the pencil. I said, tell you what I want you to do. I'm going to sell you this pencil for $10. Give me $10. He goes, Dad, I don't got $10 on me. I said, don't worry about that. And I took $10 out of my wallet and I gave it to him. And I said, okay, now can you buy it? And he's like, I'd rather just keep the $10. I was like, yeah, but I need you to buy this pencil. You need this pencil to do your homework, right? He's like, no, I got other pencils. I said, no, I need you to buy this pencil. So he gives me the $10. I give him the pencil. And I said, so what just happened? He's like, I have no idea, nothing. I'm like, exactly. I was like, that is how you describe the AI bubble to your kids. That's what's happening in all these deals where it's like, I'll give you money, you give me the same amount, buy my chips, here we go, we move on. With this one, there's no financial disclosure. Somehow they're working on it, which means AVGO is going to be the one making this most likely, okay? And Broadcom, I assume what's going to be an announcement is that maybe AVGO gets some kind of investment into the company for making this with them and all that stuff. That's the only I can think of. But again, every time there's weakness, just put up the bat light in Gotham. We'll call it, SA on the light. So Sam knows to run in and do some kind of deal, right? And so we'll see if they keep doing that. But every time you bet against it, that's the problem. You can't bet against those deals being announced. Whether they're means they're going to make any money at all does not matter. It's just the fact there's a deal in place somehow. Now, looking at Tesla here, was consolidated and then it exploded higher. Got about 91 million in call premium, as you can see. Just kind of kept going most of the day to the very end. Had a bunch of news come out after open. You know, one was a price upgrade. Another was Tesla stock rebounds. EV maker announces Shanghai factory Q4 ramp up. Tesla's autopilot visualization gets big upgrade with tons of new additions, all that fun stuff. I think they even changed the color of something, as you can see right there in the Gigafactory, whatever. But what really happened on this one, I don't know if you remember this, we had this consolidation. It looks like it didn't come down very much, right? I was like, oh man, this thing held up really well at 412. And you remember this box down here I talked about for weeks, it seems like, between 397, 403 to fill the gap. Maybe we finally get this test down here, 0.5 fib, all this fun stuff. And it never would do it. And then we found out as an extended hours, it did it. Came down around $400, I believe, right there, and got the bounce. Okay, so it has kind of cleared a lot of this gap out. Didn't fill it all. And so it's actually been almost a 10% move up from that point forward. And so big move up for Tesla back into the area. Again, I'm going to put this up here so we can see it on regular trading hours. But back up into the area where it was consolidating and stuff. And so, the big question is that going to be enough to the downside? Of course, a lot of this will do if the market holds up or not, even though it tends to move against the market sometimes. The market is going down or trading sideways. Tesla will go up. Again, we'll watch calls and stuff on this one. But when we add a trend line here, you can see it's pretty much flagging right here. That's where it stopped today. So a break above that trend line, and you can get another explosive move on Tesla. And it's really just kind of sitting here wedging, right? As we can see here. And it might continue to wedge. But you got to get above this level right here. It gets above this level right here, around 443.88. And then we're cooking with Crisco. Okay, again, it'll be above that trend line as well, above the resistance. And if you start seeing calls roll in, this thing's going to move. Okay, shocking as that may sound. JD.com, tell our members about this one. Again, this one sell off before Friday, but it hit the 0.79 fib to the penny. Boom, nice bounce up. Closed above the 50 today. The thing you got to watch on this one, it followed the fibs up before, and that's what we got to look at. We got to see if this thing is going to follow the fibs back up. And so watch the 0.5 fib, set in 34.12, golden pocket around 34.50, 0.79 fib around 35.72, because if the meeting still takes place and things de-escalate between the U.S. and China, then you're going to see these things start to rip higher because a lot of flows are coming in for Baba and Baidu today as well. HIMS, watch this one because it's getting those higher lows, but it's starting to form where, hey, guess what's happening? No higher highs. And so I want to see if these lower lows keep coming up and it just keeps squeezing in here. And if that happens, guess what? I was likely going to break to the upside and go for that 65 right there, next resistance level. And we have Oscar right here, the health insurance company. Remember, this hit the 0.9 fib exactly. Got a nice bounce. It was selling off before this whole thing happened Friday. Now it's up in the area where we need to get above, this trend line and start heading back up. But as we talked about, you're not going to get the big move until we get up above this area right here. And I said that's going to be major resistance, and that's what it was. About a 20% pullback on this one once it got slapped down from that level. But it's another one, you start hitting the extended hours on it as you came down, tested the 50 SMA and this trend line, but I'll talk about that more in just a second, and got the bounce like a lot of these did. And so we'll see if this is going to continue to push up. You go over here to IWM, huge move back up, almost like a 3% day on this thing. Almost recovered all of the losses it had on Friday, so it's about to retest that right there. Again, in extended hours, it tested the 50. We'll talk about this again in just a second. Support area, so it's got a really nice bounce of about 4.8% coming out of that. And it's doing the same thing Tesla's doing. It's just flagging right here. So if we draw a trend line, you can see once it breaks above this, and if we start moving in the market, then this thing is definitely going to go up. And this depends on a lot of those high flyers I showed you. A lot of those trade on the Russell, and they're up 10, 20% in a day. It's insane, right? And so we'll move this up to the previous all-time high. Breaks that trend line. Around 247.50 will be your next level to watch out for. Go over to the SPX. Then we can see lots of liquidity above, like we talked about with this one right here. Big move up. We'll talk about where it stopped. Okay, you got more liquidity down below if it wants to take it. Big RTH gap on this one, as you can see. Again, RSI super oversold yesterday on the hourly, which is why, of course, you get your bounce. No surprise there. Now we get to see if they start to get above that 50 and we start to see momentum go into this. And we'll talk about why that could be a problem before. But when you go back, you can see this is much more oversold than it's been in quite a while. Okay, where did it stop today? At the 0.5 fib. So you got 50% worth of the retracement today. There's no accident that it stalled right there. Okay, and plus it was just a very big move up with a huge gap below we got to look out for. We'll take this area away. That's just where it was consolidating. And so looking at where it's at, the question is it going to turn this area, which was support, is that going to be resistance now coming back up? And this will really depend a lot on earnings, what's happening here, and how the market takes them. Remember, we got banks tomorrow, which we'll talk about. And so do you get a move up in the morning or not? And watch that Friday low. That's really the key. It doesn't matter if you consolidate from here or whatever. The Friday low needs to hold. The VIX is backing off today. It was down about 10%, below 20. Again, you look at extended hours, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. During regular hours, we didn't touch it. During extended hours on the SPY, we actually did get below it and test it. And I'll talk about that again in just a second. But that does help with the bounces, okay? And if we end up getting great news from the banks, or the market just loves it to death, and Jerome Powell's going to speak tomorrow as well, then you can see maybe a fill that gap in the morning and go. Okay, that's what I'm going to be looking for, to see if that gap gets dealt with tomorrow or not, because that would definitely help sustain a move up. Again, the one thing, and I just mentioned it, and we'll see if it's going to happen, the moving averages and extended hours is not supposed to count as a retest, because you get lower volume, erratic price behavior. But I remember last year we talked about this. I think it was coming in the fourth quarter, and we had a drop down. And I was like, wow, look, a lot of stocks are testing this 50, but it's in extended hours. Is that going to count? And guess what happened? We just ripped higher. We never came back down. Okay, so it's not supposed to officially count, but I'm just pointing out to see if we continue to rip higher and go back to all-time high and all that stuff with earnings coming in good and whatever, then guess what? Maybe it does count. I know it's not officially count, but then Friday especially is like, I'm pretty sure it was a lot more volume in after hours than it normally is, because of the selling pressure coming down and people panicking out, and the crypto's just nose diving like crazy. So again, we'll see if it's going to matter or not. Now, when it comes to the earnings, all the banks in the morning, Johnson & Johnson, Domino's, Albertsons, so loaded morning, okay? Then we don't have any data, but you have Jerome Powell speaking at lunchtime, so be aware of that. He will say nothing new most likely, but the algos love to react to him. He usually puts his speech out ahead of time anyway. So if you see a big drop or big spike in the morning, that's what happened most likely, because we don't have any of the data. Now, I'd appreciate it if you would hit that like and subscribe button. Appreciate all you guys who comment. I read all of them. There's a whole bunch of them. So appreciate all that, guys. Thank you for signing up for the membership. Left the McDonald's combo at $7.99. All you got to do is hit the first link in the bottom. That's everything you get with it. And I will see you guys tomorrow to wrap up another fun one.